Today is the 8-year anniversary of the Flint water crisis, which is still a crisis. Just like the media buried what went on with Stephen Donziger. Remember, the media basically descended on Flint for 2 weeks in 2016 and then left. And since then, it's basically been Status Coup, a couple others, covering one of the biggest humanitarian disasters, but also government cover-ups of this century. Ty was with me in Flint many times. I've been there almost 20 times. And there's a connection here because this was about Chevron, a billion-dollar corporation, basically going on a corporate jihad against a human rights attorney. So that the money wasn't the biggest thing that they didn't want to pay. They didn't want to give an inch. They didn't want to open that Pandora's box. That if you actually had a justice and Chevron was made to pay for what they did in the Amazon in Ecuador, what comes next? The people would be empowered to go after other corporations, not just for environmental pollution and genocide, but a whole lot of other things. Once the people get some victories, then that's what the oligarchy is afraid of. They don't want you to get hope. They don't want you to get momentum. They don't want the spirit that you see out on this street. They don't want you to feel that. And the same thing happened in Flint, Michigan, because this was a privatization scheme. It was a privatization scheme to create a completely unnecessary new water pipeline and use the city of Flint, majority black, as guinea pigs while that new pipeline was under construction. And yeah, we'll just throw them on the Flint River. Sure, General Motors has been dumping their shit in there for a century. And all sorts of, I mean, if you lived in Flint, you knew you don't fuck around with the Flint River. I mean, there have been dead bodies floating in the Flint River. And the media covered it for about 2 minutes. Rachel Maddow got acolytes for doing a town hall there. And then they moved on. When I eventually write a book or we do a documentary, I could show you email after email after email of me going to major media outlets and saying, hey, I got documents from the criminal investigation showing that the governor of Michigan lied about when he first knew about a deadly bacteria going through that water. They said, is there a Trump angle? I'm not shitting you. Is there a Trump angle to this story? I said, no. This was actually under Obama, but no, this happened under Rick Snyder, the governor. They didn't want to cover it. When I actually got reporting and evidence that Snyder's top officials erased their phones before the launch of a criminal investigation. Couldn't get any outlet to cover it. Credit to The Intercept, who published it. When I got reporting that the governor's top advisor was going around to Flint residents who were sick and offering them payoffs to stay silent. Fucking crickets. Only outlet I could get was Vice. Credit to Vice. When I got evidence that the prosecutors, the original Flint team of prosecutors, that they were gunning for involuntary manslaughter against Governor Snyder. Involuntary manslaughter against the governor. But they were fired by the current Attorney General. Those prosecutors were fired by the current Attorney General. When I reported that, crickets. Do you know a New York Times editor said to me via DM, maybe I'll release it one day. A New York Times editor said to me, that's a great story, but wasn't this kind of known already? A New York Times editor says to me, that's a great story that the governor of Michigan knew 16 months before he told Congress. Perjury is still a crime in America, I believe. He knew 16 months before he told Congress that there was a deadly waterborne bacteria going around killing people in Flint. And he knew 16 months earlier than he told the public. A New York Times editor told me, wasn't that already known, kind of? No, you fucking idiot. I'm bringing it to you in documents. It wasn't known. They didn't want to cover it. You want to know why? Because it had nothing to do with Trump, Russia, Stormy Daniels, or whatever other bullshit that was getting them new subscribers. Not that Trump was bullshit, plenty of reason to cover him. But last time I checked, the New York Times got a lot more resources than Status Coup. I've lost money, not just with Status Coup, but me personally, when I put my own money to keep going back to Flint. And there's a connection between Flint, again, 8-year anniversary today, and this injustice. Because let me tell you something. Stephen Donziger might technically be free, but he's not free, okay? He's been disbarred. He's been nearly bankrupted. The mental damage to sitting in an apartment and federal prison for 993 days, they took something from this man's life. The damage done to his wife and kid. And the people of Flint are not free. Because when I go there, I don't rely on the cherry-picked data that the state of Michigan puts out there, including from the Democratic governor now. I go there and I talk to the residents. They show me the rashes they're still getting from that water. They show me that their hair is still falling out when they shower. I smell the water as of 6 months ago. It smells like shit. But they say it's safe. They say it's clean. We broke a couple years ago, which, by the way, Newsweek magazine killed the story the same week it was supposed to be published. I bit my tongue. I went into the corporate headquarters of Newsweek magazine and was going to do it with them because, hey, if I can get it in a big mainstream outlet, maybe it would get around. Maybe people would care again. And they killed it that week, saying, we don't think you had enough data. I had 35 residents of Flint on the record. I knocked on doors at the time with Jen, who was with Status Coup. We knocked on 400 doors over the summer and fall. Ty shot some of it. It was hot. It was hot. And you want to know something? We found that Snyder's environmental department was going into homes and they were flushing residents' lines, their water lines, right before putting the sample bottle under, aka flushing away the lead to get artificially low levels and declare it over. And then he shut down the water pods. There's a connection between this and Stephen, because people could technically be not in prison or out of house arrest, but that doesn't mean the oppression against them is done. The residents of Flint in a settlement, they're getting less than the price of a used car for brain damage to children, massive behavioral problems to children, learning disabilities to children, adults. I have friends that I have gotten close with, sources that became friends, have cancer now. I have friends that died from this water.
Our good friend.
Yeah, Tony Palladino, basically the image of Flint. 60 years old, just died of COVID. Well, let me tell you something. COVID could kill people, but if you're already badly immunocompromised with spots on your liver and your health is failing because you drank poison water, COVID will kill you a lot easier. So
what you always say, if they let it happen in Flint, it's going to happen. And then you just look at this story.
If you normalize what happened in Flint, and that's why 8 years later, I'm still screaming about this, and I'm still covering it. When it's normalized in Flint, poisoning a community, covering it up, and then leaving the community to slowly die. Because make no mistake, when we knocked on doors a couple years ago, every block we went, we'd knock on a door, somebody would open. I'd say, hey, do you know if this person that didn't open the door is, do they still live here or whatever? Oh, no, they recently died. We're talking 30-somethings, 40-somethings, 50-somethings. No history in their family of cancer. I met a woman, Amanda, in Flint. I think she was 30-something. Perfect. Her health was perfect before the water crisis. She got, they went into her home. They flushed her pipes right before taking the sample. She thought it was normal because, like, oh, well, it's the state environmental department. So I trust that they're doing it the right way. They showed her 0 lead in her house. She developed thyroid cancer, and I don't even know if she's still alive. She was pretty sick when I last interviewed her. No family history of thyroid cancer, no health problems before the water switch. We don't know how many people died there because they didn't have a registry for years. So we don't know who died of cancer, kidney failure, liver disease. They're not following it because what you don't look for, you won't find. And most importantly, on the 8-year anniversary today, not one government official, EPA, state of Michigan, Governor Snyder, local officials in Flint, not one is in prison. Not one is in prison. Thanks for watching, and make sure to tune in to Status Coup's daily live stream Monday through Thursday at 5 o'clock Eastern Time and Fridays at 4 o'clock Eastern Time.